Hello everyone. I'm Brian. I'm back from Zimco Survival, and I apologize if my face is a little bit black here. Unfortunately, the sun is out in full force today, which is blinding me when I'm trying to do this in the sun. So I'm going to do a discussion video, and this one is going to be on the hotly debated topic of the Ferro Rod versus the Bic. Which one do I think is better? Why do I think it's better? I believe the Bic is better. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the stats of the Bic and why I believe it's better in a lot of ways. In that the Bic Lighter can be operated one-handed, as you can see. And most of the time when you do this, you get a fire. Now, I see a lot of numbers being thrown around as far as Bics go, with 3,000 fires, etc., before it needs to be refilled. My experience with a Bic Lighter is that they last for about 300 actual lights, not 3,000. You'll get 3,000 of these. Okay? This is not enough time to light a fire. Most of the time. Now, if you have the right kind of tinder and you go, you might be able to get it lit. But most of the time you're going to have to light it like this and let it burn for a little bit in order to get the fire started. So in that scenario, I find that I can get about 300 fires started with the Bic. Not the 3,000 that a lot of people claim. That's just my experience. I'm a long-term smoker. It takes about 2 seconds to light a cigarette properly. And I find that I have to replace this after about 300 cigarettes because it won't really light anymore. It's too low on fuel. So that's my experience. Cold weather, wet weather, these things, I've dropped them in puddles, pulled them out, shake them off, and they still light. So I don't find the argument for ferro rods and the fact that, you know, the temperature doesn't affect them, water, and these things break all the time. In my opinion, these are a very, very, very good option and probably one of the best to put in your bags. Now, I do have a caveat to that, and that's this piece of shit, okay? This is a Bic Lighter. This is not. This works in all conditions. This does not. Keep that in mind, okay? When you're buying a Bic Lighter, make sure it says Bic at the top. I find that these fail me more often than they actually help me. In fact, the gas station near me gives them away for free just for buying a cigarette. That's how bad they are. So, my opinion, Bics are good. Generic lighters are terrible. I recommend carrying at least one Bic. I carry one in my fire kit. I also carry 4 in my primary fire kit. I carry these things with me all the time. I have a lot of experience with these. Now, for the other topic, ferro rods. Are they good? Are they bad? What's the point? I do carry 2 of them in my fire kit and 1 of them on my knife. This one here is a 5" by 1/2" ferro rod. As you can see, I used quite a bit of it. I do believe these are worth something. This particular size gets 15,000 strikes. Now, I want to clarify, a strike is not a fire, okay? A strike is the sparks you get when you scrape it. Those sparks may or may not start a fire. So the way you should look at it is, my opinion and my experience with ferro rods, it takes about 10 strikes with okay tinder in order to get it to light. There are some tinders that will light very quickly within 1 or 2 strikes. Like properly prepared fat wood, for example, or a soaked cotton ball. Anything like that, you got a pretty good chance of getting on the first strike. I've had some pretty good success with cattail heads. But generic, natural tinders that you're going to find just kind of laying on the ground, I find it takes 10 strikes. For alright tinder, if it's not that good, it can take 20 to 30 to dry it out properly and get it to light. So, when they say 15,000 strikes, I typically divide that by 10, and that's how many actual fires I will budget for this ferro rod. On average, it takes 10. So, 1,500 fires in this rod, 300 fires in this lighter. Now, something to take into consideration. These are heavy, these are light. You can probably fit 2 Bic lighters into the space of, well, probably a Bic and a half, somewhere in there. 2 mini Bics. But you'll get about, let's see, probably about 450 fires or so for the same space as a Bic. For the same weight, you'll probably get about 900 fires for the same weight as a ferro rod. But you can't just include weight, you have to also include size, because space matters. So weight-wise, you can carry about 3 Bics per ferro rod, but the 3 Bics will take up more space. I like the ferro rod. It's not something that I don't carry with me, because I like having options, and I know that I can save the fuel in my Bic if I'm able to find really good tinder. So if I can find really good tinder, I would rather use the ferro rod and save the fuel in my Bic. That's something you should take into consideration as well, in that both of these are expendable resources. Nobody can tell you that this ferro rod will last forever, because it won't. You get a certain number of strikes before this ferro rod will no longer work, because you're taking metal off each time you make sparks. So this does have fuel, and that fuel is the rod itself. This lighter has fuel. That's the butane inside the lighter. So both of these are expendable resources. I personally believe that the better my chances are of starting a fire with this, the less I should use this. Because this is better used in instances when I am very cold, when I need to start a fire right away, and I need to do it one hand if I'm injured. Okay, that's what I find this to be better used for. I'm not going to waste this resource if I have access to really good tinder. Like, for example, if I find an area with a lot of cattails, I know that I can start a fire really easily with this after just a couple of strikes and save this resource. So keep in mind, that's my opinion. I carry both. I use them for different circumstances. I know there's a huge debate about it. I know that a lot of people say you should never carry a ferro rod, and a lot of people say you should never carry a Bic. 2 completely different arguments for 2 different tools. In my opinion, carry both of them. Use them based on the circumstance. For example, if I have a lot of really good sun like this, I'm not using either one of these. I'm going to use a magnifying glass, because I'm going to save these resources. Since the sun is a renewable resource, it comes out, I can start a fire with a magnifying glass, and that magnifying glass is never going to run out of fuel. So it's all about conserving what you have. And this conserves the fuel in this in instances when you have really good tinder. And this conserves this for times when you don't have really good tinder. Just, in my opinion, the argument is invalid, because both of these are good tools. Both of these have a purpose in different situations. So I think I carry both. I think you guys should carry both. You don't have to go overboard. You can carry 1 6-inch rod and a few of these lighters, and you're pretty much good to go. I think the math on this, by people saying it lights 300 or 3,000 fires, is off. My personal experience, I tend to get about 300, because when they tested these, this is the way they tested it. You can get 300.1 second flames. So 1/10 of a second flames, you can get 3,000 of them. Okay? In my experience, you get about 300 because you have to leave this on for about a second in order to actually start a fire. So I divide both of them by 10. This gets 3,000 flames. I divide it by 10. That's how many fires I can expect. This here gets 15,000 strikes. I divide it by 10. I expect to get 1,500 fires. This gives more fires for the space and the weight, but requires a lot more skill and fire prep to be able to use it properly. This isn't something that most people can just pick up and start a fire with right away. While this, I could give it to a 3-year-old and they can start a fire. So, also take that in consideration when picking your fire starting methods. This is going to be much easier to start fire, especially if you're injured, than this is. This requires 2 hands and 2 tools. This and a scraper. plus knowledge of tinder and fire prep. Now, I think everyone should know fire prep, so I'm actually going to go ahead and make a video on how to properly set up a fire, and another video on how to find the right tinder, so that you can get the best odds of starting a fire with the least amount of work. But again, I digress. Both really good options. You should have both of these in your kit, at least one ferro rod and at least one Bic. If you know what you're doing, you can probably get more lights out of the ferro rod, more fires, than the Bic. Although, like I said, if you're injured, the Bic is going to be a better option. And if the tinder isn't that great, the Bic is going to be a better option. But that's my opinion on the matter. Those are my 2 cents on this whole argument situation. So take from this video what you will. Thank you so much. As always, please have a great day. And remember, if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.